Let's bring in Erica and Mark. And guys, the question is, at the top of the show, is the U.S. an economic good guy or bad guy? By pumping in another $600 billion into the economy, is the United States manipulating the dollar by driving it lower? Is it hypocrisy, I guess? Erica, let's begin with you.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think it's about time the United States had a competitive advantage in these, in the back and forth of trade. We've ranking low in math and science. We've got roads and bridges that we've got to rebuild. And so if we can do that by exporting more goods for the time being, I say all the better for us.
And Mark, I love the comments from the German finance minister, Wolfgang Schäuble, who says U.S. policy clueless. What do you think?
Hey, when we get lectured by socialists in Europe and communists in China, it's not a good day for America. These countries know that if you inflate your currency, you devalue the dollar, and what that ends up being happening, we're trying to monetize all this debt we owe to China, and then what happens is our wages go down relative with inflation, and it's a regressive tax on the people that can least afford it. It's not going to create real stimulus. It's not going to create growth. But it's going to give more control to the Fed and to people that we don't even know where the money's going. When we need to audit the Fed, we need to know where the money's going. We need to rein in their power and have a sound dollar supply. We need real innovation and capital creation, not this manipulation of the market.
So what do you think, Mark? Time for a little bit of austerity on the scale of perhaps the UK, which is really taking some tough measures?
It's really interesting. We just found out this morning that the employees in the federal government making $150,000 a year just doubled under the Obama administration. Who are these people? Where is this money going? And when are we going to start tightening our belt? Because if we don't, we're going to end up with the same kind of problems. People in the streets, like in France, complaining about their Social Security. We got to start cutting this back, or we're going to be in trouble here in this country.
Erica, it's Greg Jarrett. Isn't this a risky strategy for, in the end, very little gain? You're going to maybe drop long-term interest rates by what? 25 to 50 basis points, and at what cost? I mean, you are devaluing the dollar, harming confidence in U.S. currency, and investors are already fleeing the dollar.
Well, I mean, let's keep in mind what the president has control of and what the president doesn't have control of. And as we said at the beginning of the show, what the Fed does is not something that the president has control over. What the president has tried to do since he went into office is start to put us back on strong footing.
Yeah, how's that
working? The fact of the
him?
matter is, well, I mean, let's see. Every single month since he's been in office, we've had private sector job sector growth. And the last month, George Bush left office, we had 750,000 jobs lost. So, of course it is not far enough. We are moving in the right direction.
Yeah, at what cost? Hyperinflation, Mark, is the real threat here. And banks are still going to be fearful of lending, given all of the uncertainty, aren't they?
Yeah, I always tell investors, think of the Fed and the Treasury as an ATM for the federal government to do deficit spending and inflate their budgets. An ATM with a printing press on the other side of it. You can't create real wealth in this country or any country by printing it. I mean, history is clear on this account. And what we need is more capital formation from entrepreneurs taking risks and businessmen innovating. This doesn't create innovation. One of the things I've been telling investors, this is a good reason why you need to be globally diversified and have your portfolio in a lot of different currencies, not just in one currency like ours.
And to pick up on what Mark said, Todd, let me ask you this. This was a quote from Jim Rogers, who was giving a speech at Oxford University about Ben Bernanke. He says, Dr. Bernanke, unfortunately, does not understand economics. He does not understand currencies. He does not understand finance. All he understands is printing money. Is that a little unfair? Or
Oh, absolutely, it's unfair. I mean, here he was chairman of the economics department at Princeton, so I find it hard to believe that he doesn't know economics. The thing about Chairman Bernanke, though, is that, and the Chinese and the Germans now are acting all surprised that, oh, we didn't know that this was coming. Everybody knew that this was coming. Part of the intent of quantitative easing, too, is to create a wealth effect, to artificially inflate that wealth effect for households so they go out and spend money, and therefore hopefully businesses go out and
But the question is, does it actually get to the people who could really use it, access to credit for small business?
It does. If you look at QE1, actually in the quarters following it, we actually did see real GDP growth from QE1.
However,
it did lose
different
steam
back then. I mean, the markets were absolutely frozen. We were on the precipice back then.
Remember, when quantitative easing 1 was actually hinted at, we had unemployment unemployment at 7.4%, core inflation at 1.8%. Here you're standing at 9.6% on the unemployment rate, and we're south of 1% on the core inflation. The question isn't, we all can say that it's not going to work for the long term. We know that. And the risk for the Fed right now is to say, look, you know what, we're coming out with this QE2 package, and nothing happens. Banks don't lend, people aren't hired, therefore people are not spending. That's the risk. But where's the Fed going to go from here? They need to do something. And, you know, and bravo to President Obama. I got to give him some credit here, and I'm going to side with Erica on
You're
this
giving
one.
props to the president after he just got spanked?
No, hold on, though. He went out, and he is saying, look, you need us just as much as we need the world right now. And that's why you do not want us to fail, because if we do not hire and we do not grow this economy, therefore the entire world would fail. Yeah. And bravo to him. I give him some credit.
You know,
it's about time he stood
Erica,
up.
what about instead of monetary policy, how about a change in fiscal policy? Let's unwind the debt and cut spending. And, gee, I don't know, maybe a payroll tax holiday. How about cutting the marginal rates, the corporate tax rate as well?
Well, so here are a couple of things. Number one, we had a payroll holiday. President Obama put that in as part of his economic program, and it was effective. You know, we are moving in the right direction. We're not moving fast enough. As a liberal Democrat, I believe that we should cut the corporate income tax, which I know is probably surprising to everyone on the show to hear. I do think we should cut the corporate income tax, but I think that at the same time, we've got to be responsible in doing that and close a lot of the loopholes that we have. Cutting the corporate income tax is a very obviously great idea.
Would you cut capital gains and dividend, Erica?
I would not cut capital gains taxes, and I would not cut dividends. I think they should be treated just like because their income
and marginal rates. You might as well cut the dividend and capital gains to zero.
Because their income, like any other income, is income.
Well,
I mean, I really believe that you should reward people who actually work for a living.
Mark, jump in.
Capital gains and dividend are an onerous tax because it's a double tax on money that was already earned and then reinvested. How many times are you going to tax this money? You tax it when it's made, you tax it when it's invested, you tax it when it's sold. I mean, you got to stop with this tax stuff because it's killing the economy.
But
you
Mark,
have to encourage people to buy equities and buy stocks, not to get away from them. And that's
Mark,
I applaud you on your idea about reducing the corporate tax rates, because that's a double tax too. I'll go you one better. Let's eliminate it altogether so companies want to come back to the United States and we can grow this economy.
Good point,
Mark, there are any number of examples of double taxation in our economy. The fact of the matter is, you all argue.
And they're all bad. Every single one of them.
Be quiet. You all argue on one side for fiscal discipline, and you argue on the other side to continue to keep tax rates for a lot of people at levels that they haven't been historically. I mean, people above who make more than $1 million a year can afford to pay more money in taxes. You all refuse to pay the piper. It's irresponsible.
There's never going to be a good time to let the Bush tax cuts expire. I mean, let's be honest here.
Well,
whether it's 1 year,
now,
2 years, anytime. But something needs to be done, and it needs to be done with the lame duck session. You have 150 million Americans looking at a tax hike on January 1st.
Yes, absolutely.
29 million fall into the AMT trap. That's 7 times more than this year.
So,
Plus,
Todd, would you agree with the idea to keep the tax cuts for everybody except for people making more than $1 million a year?
Tax cuts for everybody.
How about tax cuts for everybody except for people who make more than $1 million a year?
Those people that are making $1 million are hiring people and spending money. So why do we not give them to that?
Do you understand that
it's more
Mark, when they spend money to hire somebody, it goes off of what they have to pay taxes on.
Into the sunset. We have to finish. Erica Payne.
Mark, we've got to just go back to the basics with you.
She's still talking.
She's still talking. Keep going, Erica. Erica Payne, founder of the Agenda Project. Mark Matson, founder and CEO of Matson Money.